Hello turn-based lovers, Leaf here, and today we're going to be checking out a game that's been on our radar for quite a while now. You see, a lot of us here at Turn-based lovers are massive fans of tactics RPGs or SRPGs. I myself have been playing Japanese SRPGs ever since I was a little kid, so it's always exciting when game developers grace us with more SRPGs, a genre that, to be honest, needs a whole lot more mainstream attention. While franchises like Gaia and Fire Emblem are hard at work keeping the anime SRPG or tactical RPG genre alive, we are always glad to see new SRPGs from other game developers set in their own handcrafted worlds. Sword of Convallaria is another fresh take on the classic SRPG formula, made by the global video game developer and publisher XD. While most of the company's previous works involved the free-to-play mobile market, they have since started to branch out on the PC platform with their in-house developed games like Torchlight Infinite, while also publishing other indie games on the side. Their newest game is a free-to-play fantasy tactical RPG that is aiming to revitalize a beloved Japanese turn-based and pixel art genre. Sword of Convallaria lets you collect and train a roster of mercenaries, customize them, and devise your own strategy to save the nation of Iria. For those of you who are already eager to jump into the game, you can redeem our code SOCCREATOR to earn some additional rewards in-game. As you may have probably guessed, Sword of Convallaria is a free-to-play gacha game. While SRPG gacha games aren't new, as there exist games such as Final Fantasy's War of the Visions and Brave Dust 2, Sword of Convallaria aims to retain the atmosphere and essence of classic Japanese SRPGs that the turn-based community have known and loved. Sword of Convallaria features a classic tactical RPG gameplay, a 3D-like pixel art style, and a choice-based narrative system, where player choices directly affect the world and the story of the game. Before I go any further, I'd first like to mention, just to avoid any confusion, that I am using a test account to try the game out, which has most of the characters unlocked, a trove of upgrade and summon materials, as well as most of the game's playable content unlocked. I'd also like to thank XD for giving us the opportunity to try the game out before its release. Sword of Convallaria takes place in the fictional fantasy continent Rodinia. Within it is a beautiful country known as Iria, where most of the story transpires. Iria has been renowned for having an abundance of a resource called Luxite, a precious mineral imbued with magical powers. For that reason, Iria has become the subject of envy of many powerful nations, resulting in a cascade of events including power struggles, interference from other factions, and escalating conflicts between religious organizations and ethnic tribes. And like a lot of other classic SRPGs, the world of Sword of Convallaria is plagued by violence and strife. But despite the dark tones and brutal themes, it's really hard to ignore the immersive atmosphere and eye-catching set pieces that the game showcases. Sword of Convallaria's story and world are mostly shown in this beautiful and modern neo-pixel style graphics that is reminiscent of beloved tactical RPGs like Tactics Ogre and Mercenaries Blaze. The difference is, the neo-pixel art style is described as a beautiful blend between traditional 2D pixel art and modern 3D engines. From my understanding of how the system works, while the traditional 2D pixel art leverages its nostalgic and timeless art style, the 3D engine adds a considerable amount of depth to a scene using modern techniques for rendering dynamic lighting and shadows, resulting in a highly stylized yet fully immersive world. This unique NeoPixel system not only enhances the scenery but also the characters as well. With the help of a 3D rendering engine, the game is able to showcase amazing visual effects during character combat, blasting arenas with over-the-top skills and spells while also perfectly telegraphing each action for the player's ease of use. Speaking of characters, important and playable characters also come with their own unique illustration with an art style that's reminiscent of other classic SRPGs throughout the years. From time to time, the game also treats you to some superb 2D animated sequences. The game's user interface also adheres to the modern gacha game design, so if you've played gacha games before, then navigating Sword of Convallaria's menu is as easy as it gets. Sword of Convallaria's bread and butter is its faithful rendition of the classic Japanese SRPG style of combat. Players get to take control of a team of unique heroes and devise plans and strategies to vanquish the enemies in tactical turn-based battles. Visually, the combat is eye-catching and exudes this certain charm that's hard to really scrutinize. The actual combat is pretty straightforward. If you've played Japanese SRPGs in the past, like Disgaea or Final Fantasy Tactics, then I dare say the stages in this game are a whole lot easier than your standard SRPG. But some of the higher level content in this game can feel dreadfully impossible to complete, as the time to kill is generally pretty quick and boss enemies can scale over the max level of 60. And I'm only saying that this game is generally easier than other SRPGs because most of the content that you actually need to do in order to progress the game can all easily be done provided that your characters reach the required level threshold. Combat plays around a tile map where players have the ability to reposition their characters during their turn. Positioning in SRPGs is a very important mechanic, and Sword of Convallaria is no different. Once you're done positioning your characters, you can order them to directly attack enemies that are within their attack range. But aside from direct attacks, your characters also have access to a unique set of skills that give them their own distinct playstyle. Some characters excel at dealing damage, while some prefer assisting your other units, and others do best by taking the brunt of the damage on the vanguard. While I'd love to explore each and every single mechanic that each character possesses, there's just so many of them that it could be an entire video on its own. What I can briefly discuss, however, is the game's role system that acts as some sort of a rock, paper, scissors mechanic. There are a total of 5 role types in Sword of Convallaria. The first 3 are the Defender, Seeker, and Breaker. They create this triangle of resistances and weaknesses to each other. Defenders counter Seekers, Seekers counter Breakers, and Breakers counter Defenders. The other 2 role types are the Watcher and the Destroyer. The Destroyer is a role that's basically a jack of all trades at dealing damage. They don't counter any particular role, but they're often the best at dishing out a lot of hurt. Watchers, on the other hand, are the main guys that keep the Destroyers in check. And aside from direct role counters, the game also encourages players to devise other strategies to defeat their enemies. A great example of this is using the terrain's hazards to your advantage. Exploding barrels, pitfalls, and rolling boulders are all equally fun ways of taking out the enemy. There are also some skills that directly affect the terrain, creating new hazards that open up a ton of new possibilities. There are many more mechanics and effects that you can explore in the game. They all just depend on which character you use on which map. Additionally, messing up in Sword of Convallaria doesn't necessarily indicate certain defeat. If you really messed up for whatever reason, the game lets you backtrack your actions to a point of your choosing. You can even reattempt the stage in its entirety. But if you're not much into strategy and just prefer to build your characters and watch them fight, you can do so as well. Sword of Convallaria has the option to auto-battle, which lets the AI take over, commanding your troops for you. While one could argue, why even play a game if you're not going to actively play it, it's definitely something that helps in completing mundane stages for daily activities. But I have to admit that the early stages, especially the story ones, don't need any strategy at all as long as your team's level reaches the same threshold as the stages. So the game really starts after you finish the main story and you start doing the game's harder content. But despite that, I'd still like to advise players to not skip the story content and enjoy the journey at their own pace, as Sword of Convallaria has intertwining story arcs aside from the main story that creates a much deeper narrative. When you're not busy fighting to save the world, you'll be hanging around a floating island outside space and time called Elysium. On it is your own quaint little cottage, and you'll be able to explore inside as well as its grounds where you can meet and interact with important characters and your favorite units. Inside, you'll be able to redecorate some sections with furniture that you can earn while playing the game. You can also place your favorite characters in some parts of the house to populate it. But they don't really do anything yet, and you can't even interact with them, but that would probably change in the near future. The housing system exists, but at the same time is pretty bare bones as of the moment, which leaves me to wonder what the developers have in store for this one. Sword of Convallaria features 3 main game modes: the Fool's Journey, Crossing Worlds, and Spiral of Destinies. The Fool's Journey is Sword of Convallaria's main storyline. This is the game mode that you'll mostly be playing in the early stages of your playthrough. Playing through the Fool's Journey gives you a background to the world, story, and characters of Sword of Convallaria, while also rewarding you with much needed resources by completing each chapter. Resources that will be of great help with having you get ready for the game's harder content. Crossing Worlds, on the other hand, is a game mode that lets you do daily missions. Completing missions from Crossing Worlds rewards you with materials and items that mainly help in strengthening your characters. For example, completing a weaponry trial rewards you with weapons, and completing a level up training rewards you with XP shards that you can use to level up your characters. As of playing, most of the mission types in the Crossing Worlds can only be done once a day, meaning you'll have to wait until the next day to grind more of the same material. Aside from that, daily missions also make use of an energy system which limits which mission you can take in any given day, with the exception of the Tower of Conquest. The Tower of Conquest is Sword of Convallaria's version of the Abyss from Genshin Impact. Here, your team's firepower and your commanding prowess will be put to the test. The Tower of Conquest is essentially one of the main ways for players to earn Hope Luck Sites, the game's main gacha currency. You can exchange Hope Luck Sites for a slew of different things, ranging from coins to upgrade materials to secret fates, the game's main summon currency, and even wish coupons, the main currency for pulling for skins. In the Tower of Conquest, you won't have to worry about attempts or energy, as you can try beating its levels for how many times as you want. Aside from the daily missions in the Tower of Conquest, the Crossing Worlds game mode would also sometimes feature a limited time event with a very different gameplay akin to minigames. At least for the version I got to play, but who knows when they'll start adding Vampire Survivors or some other popular genre for their limited timed events. And lastly, Spiral of Destinies is a game mode that's very different from the rest of the game. Compared to everything else in the game, Spiral of Destinies is the one that closely resembles the gameplay of classic SRPGs. The setting of this game mode is basically the Fool's Journey, but this time, you are in control of your own destiny. Your choices during story events will ultimately shape how the story unfolds. The narrative in this game mode also shares the same quality as the game's main storyline, leaving you with intricate scenarios, well-written events, and very compelling story arcs. This method of storytelling lets you witness a more engaging narrative with the assistance of hindsight and gives you a chance to see some alternative and your desired endings. Spiral of Destinies also has its own separate character progression system that refreshes whenever you start a new campaign, but we'll talk more about character progression a little bit later. Spiral of Destinies lets you take command over a small mercenary group in the town of Convallaria. In this game mode, you'll be able to explore the many vistas of the town as well as improve and maintain your units through the various services that the townsfolk have to offer. You can recruit new mercenaries at the tavern, train them in the training rounds, craft better weapons at the forge, and so much more. As a mercenary guild, you'll be taking on quests from neighboring factions, earning fame and money, all in order to bring stability to the town of Convallaria. Spiral of Destinies is honestly the best thing that I've enjoyed in this entire game. But unfortunately, in order to start a campaign in Spiral of Destinies, and in order to continue your journey further, you'll be needing a Key of Destiny. Fortunately, the game is pretty generous with giving out Key of Destinies, and you can normally get 4 of them every week for free, so they're not exactly that rare. And unless you're skipping through the story and just bum rushing through your playthrough, you'll still get a few good hours of gaming in the Spiral of Destinies every week. And if 4 keys every week isn't enough, you can always exchange some of your Hope Luck Sites for more. Sword of Convallaria's gacha system is, for lack of a better word, a lot. Simply put, if you're not willing to spend money on the game, then you can expect to miss a couple of skins and characters that you've been looking forward to getting. Especially the skins. Sword of Convallaria's character summons have rate-up banners that have 2 featured characters. This means that if you're looking to get just one of them, you're at the mercy of the 50-50. So far, that's the pattern for rotating banners of existing characters. For debut character banners, however, they seem to only feature one character at a time. Thankfully, all banners have a pity or guarantee system. The basic rule for character banners is a guarantee of a legendary for every 100 pulls. For rate-ups, drops, and debut banners, 180 pulls are needed for a guaranteed pull of the featured character. The guarantee counter resets as soon as you get the featured character, regardless if you've reached the number of guaranteed pulls or not. This means that in most cases, you'll have to pull for guarantee at least twice if you're aiming for both characters in the rate up banners. There's also a standard banner where you can get any of the released characters, but the thing is it uses the exact same currency, so there's really no reason for pulling there, especially if you're free to play. Weapon banners also look pretty standard, and there doesn't seem to be any character specific legendary weapons yet, so I'm not too keen on pulling on the weapon banner, especially considering that you can get weapons as rewards by playing the game, doing events, and completing a weaponry trial via the Crossing Worlds game mode. Aside from the usual character summons and weapon banners, there is another gacha system for character skins in the game, but this one works a little bit differently. Pulling for skins makes use of a different gacha currency called wish coupons. You can use these wish coupons to spin a roulette of prizes that includes different materials for character progression as well as the featured skin. Every time you get a prize, the prize gets locked, which increases your chances of getting the jackpot. However, realistically, you'll probably have to get everything in the prize tree in order to get the skin. It also doesn't help that every pull increases the needed wish coupons exponentially. You can earn wish coupons either through rewards by doing event quests or by spending hope luck sites. So if you're planning to spend to get skins, you're looking at spending over 10,000 hope luck sites. The skins are definitely very pricey, but also entirely optional, so this system is definitely not for the casual F2P gamers, and is definitely reserved for the giga whales and resource hoarders. Aside from your usual gacha summoning system, Sword of Convallaria also features a battle pass system for additional in-game rewards. And as per usual, the battle pass has a free and premium tier, with a premium tier giving out a lot more rewards in exchange for spending some cold hard cash. The game also has separate mini battle passes for character events that give out character specific skins and items along with other rewards. So that's a bunch of character banners, a skin banner, a main battle pass, and another mini battle pass. There seems to be a lot, but you don't really need to pay attention to the skin banner and the premium battle passes to progress through the game. The more important things are the resources you need to get new characters as well as the materials you'll be using to upgrade them. There are 5 main aspects to building characters in Sword of Convallaria that you need to pay attention to. That'd be the level, rank, trait, bond, and gear. A character's level is the most basic requirement in upgrading your characters. Leveling up a character mainly increases their base stats or attributes, but it also dictates how high you can rank them up. Raising a character's rank will let you unlock useful active and passive skills for combat, opening up more possibilities for newer and better strategies. Traits are passive skills that are unique to each and every character. Raising a trait's star level further improves their effectiveness, and reaching max star level unlocks a new splash art for the character. Increasing a character's bond level increases all of their stats by 1% for a maximum of a 5% stat increase. Raising bond levels also unlocks storage sequences for certain characters. Gear is a character set of items, and there are a total of 3 gear slots for building your character: a weapon slot, a trinket slot, and a tarot whisper slot. Weapons provide the main attributes for dealing damage. Trinkets provide some additional stats while also providing additional passive effects, and other trinkets even give additional skills to use in combat. The Tarot Whisper is mostly similar to trinkets, with the exception that they also give additional stats and effects depending on their level. And aside from building the characters, you'll also have to take into account the talent tree. Upgrading through the talent tree universally increases the stats of the characters under a talent tree's role type. Here, you'll also be able to unlock tactic abilities that you, the commander, can cast in battle using tactic points in order to turn the tide of battle in your team's favor. The Spiral of Destiny's game mode also has its own separate character progression system that's isolated from the main game. During my playthrough, I haven't really been able to finish a Spiral of Destiny's playthrough, but I'm assuming that whatever you earn inside this game mode will never leak out of the main game. Spiral of Destiny's also has the Astral Path, its own meta progression system similar to the Talents tree, where completing campaigns earns you points for unlocking permanent boosts for your next playthroughs. While this may sound like a lot, and It is a lot. Thankfully, each and every aspect of character progression is grindable by doing crossing worlds missions and participating in free limited time events. Even the materials needed to upgrade a character's traits or star level, which normally requires duplicates in other gacha games, can be grinded through dailies. This means that you only really need to get a character once and you'll have the chance to max them out without having to spend more to get duplicates. But the lesser gacha mechanics have the unfortunate trade-off of having insanely long grinding times. That may be a good thing for some players, but I can already see the casual player base complaining that the game is too grindy. Personally, my view on this matter leans towards a more positive direction, because for a lot of people, spending a lot of time is negligible compared to spending a few dollars on a game. When promotional advertisements and videos on this game mentioned that it's trying to revitalize the Japanese pixel RPG genre, I honestly had my doubts. Considering that a lot of modern mobile game developers make games with the idea of monetization first, actual video game later. So even after playing Sword of Convallaria's demo on Steam, the game never really left a decent impression on me. Just to be clear, I find this game as one of the prettiest free-to-play pixel art RPGs available on the market. I actually really love the art style and the story is decent enough to be compelling. But at the end of the day, I thought that it's still the same gacha game with the same gacha system with the same flawed repetitive gameplay. However, having experienced more of the game and having explored more of the characters that are available, I can now say that XD has something really special here. Although, considering how the gacha and daily systems are, Sword of Convallaria is definitely a game that's expecting you to commit for a much longer time compared to other gacha games. Gacha systems aside, I really loved the Spiral of Destiny's game mode. It's been a while since a video game sunk me in with its world and gameplay that I end up actually losing track of time, which is a really good metric in discussing if a game is actually good or not. If there is one thing that I would like to change in this game, I would love it if they completely get rid of the Key of Destiny system in the Spiral of Destiny's game mode. Now, I understand that the game needs some sort of buffer so that the developers can put out more content before the players just clear everything in a few days. But I belong to the group of gamers that doesn't like it when our fun gets interrupted by an artificial limitation system. The Spiral of Destiny's game mode is just way too good of an experience only for it to be interrupted by uncontrollable factors. And even though the game is pretty generous when giving out keys, having to stop my playthrough midway just after the game started getting good is not an enjoyable experience. Or instead of getting rid of the keys, if one key was enough to play an entire campaign from start to finish, that wouldn't be too bad either. While Sword of Convallaria is definitely not a perfect game and there are some systems that I personally don't agree with, the Spiral of Destinies alone was enough to convince me to actually play this game for real. That is it for this video. Make sure to hit like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and make sure to follow turn-based lovers for everything turn-based. Check the links in the description and don't forget to redeem your code SOCCREATOR for some awesome in-game rewards. This has been Leaf and I'll see you guys on the next one.